Over the past 4 days, our officers have worked incredibly hard to respond to several brazen incidents of gun violence that have shaken many Calgarians' sense of safety in the city. Each one of these incidents has occurred within a community, some in broad daylight and some narrowly missing innocent bystanders. We know that Calgarians are shocked and concerned that these incidents will have lasting impacts on our community. While we have already confirmed that several of these shootings were targeted, this does not diminish the risk to Calgarians. While it is still early in these investigations, many of these incidents also have the hallmarks of organized crime. Organized crime-related violence is often difficult to solve due to the lack of cooperation from those involved. And the extra steps taken by offenders to plan these acts and conceal their identity and dispose of evidence makes it increasingly difficult to investigate these crimes. That's why support from the public following these incidents is critical to us. As a police service, we are doing a significant amount to work to address organized crime-related violence through a coordinated offender management approach in the city. Through this approach, this year alone, we are monitoring 350 offenders with ties to organized crime and have arrested and charged 83 of them, some multiple times. We have seized 375 crime guns in the city, including almost 90 firearms from our organized crime offenders. Our violent crime suppression team has conducted walkthroughs of 2,840 establishments this year and 1,068 checks on offenders connected to organized crime to ensure that they are abiding by their court-ordered conditions. While we have seen some positive impacts as a result of this work, we still rely on support from the community, which is critical. As Calgarians, we can all help prevent organized crime-related violence in the city. As residents, you know best what activity is out of the ordinary in your community and your surrounding. If you see something suspicious, please report it to police. If you have surveillance video of an incident, please share it with us. Further, if you have information about individuals involved in organized crime in Calgary, please contact police or Crime Stoppers. Maybe somebody told you something, or maybe you witnessed something. Regardless of how insignificant you think this information is, it could be the critical piece that helps us save a life. I will now take questions. Please note I'm unable to speak about specifics in relation to these ongoing investigations.
How unusual is it to see this kind of spate of violence here in the city?
Yeah, I would hate to say we're comfortable with seeing this. What I would say is it's unfortunately consistent with what we're seeing across the country, across North America today with the violence and the shootings. It is not common that we'd see this many days in a row with this type of violence, this spate of violence. So it's concerning to us, as we've stated in each one of those other cases. We're extremely concerned. We're working very hard with multiple teams around the clock over the last 5 days and prior on the previous shootings to try and connect the dots and suppress any retaliatory violence that may come of these if connected, but it's just too early to say in regards to these just being over the last few days.
When you say it's something that's maybe being seen across the country or being seen in other cities, is there a reason that comes to mind for that? Is there anything that you can point to that might have been
I think there's a few things. Obviously, it's as we've seen, there's greater access to guns. We also have teams that don't just work in response to the violence that we're seeing over this last couple of days. We also have teams that are proactively working, like say, to manage offenders so they don't have access to these, to investigate those who traffic firearms, to try and eliminate and stem the flow of those firearms into Calgary, and try and prevent or make it really difficult for offenders to access, which would obviously stem the number of shootings we'd see. We also have issues like we've talked about in the media before. We have bail reform that we know the Alberta Association of Chiefs of Police and the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police are lobbying along with our politicians to have legislative changes, which will help us keep our significant and violent offenders behind bars for longer. Most of these people that are involved in these types of crimes, they're not new to this life, and they're not new they're known to Calgary police and they're police of jurisdiction.
Can you just confirm the shootings that you mentioned, like how many seen, where did they happen, what days did they happen, just to make sure that we're all on the same page?
I think I'd start, with, I think I'll get my dates correct, but I'll start with the last few over the weekend. So Thursday night leading into Friday, and then we've had over the weekend. So we've had shootings, obviously, to shock the community in the community of Marlborough, Abbeydale, and McEwen, and then obviously today at the Trans-Canada Mall.
Why now? Why the uptick in violence now?
So I'd like to be able to tell you more. Obviously, we are working, and the community is concerned, and we are concerned alongside them. We have teams working to try and connect these together if they are indeed connected. If they're not, then to work independently to try and bring the people that are responsible to justice. And at this point, I can't tell you more about if they are connected to be able to answer that a bit better. And because if I could, then I would hopefully be able to resolve some of the community's concerns to say that that these are just one thing and we have everybody in custody and there's no further concern. What I can tell you is that we believe the majority of the last few days, what I can tell you is that they are targeted from what we know right now. So, but unfortunately we've had victims' property impacted and innocent bystanders are impacted both, obviously emotionally in this and in their homes, and that's something that we don't want.
Can you speak to, is it been a sea change in the way that these things are happening? Like, it seems to be happening more and more in areas where the public is exposed to, as opposed to what we've seen in the past here.
Mm-hmm.
Shopping malls in front of schools, in people's residences.
Yeah.
It seems like a different sort of violence than we've seen in the past.
Yeah, and these groups, the organized crime groups that we have working here, the conflict is fluid and it changes just as fast as we get a handle on who these groups are. Their motives change, their affiliations and allegiances in the group change, and so that creates this sort of consistent conflict when they branch out on their own or they're in debt to their current crew. But they're also crimes of opportunity. As I mentioned, they're pre-planned, so these people know who their targets are, they know who the other groups in town are, and they're prepared to take action when they see or can come upon these people. And that's why we're seeing some of the more brazen daytime or public shootings, is they might not get a second chance and they take the opportunity when they see it, which is something that we don't need happening in Calgary.
When they're in quick succession like this, does that imply the kind of retaliatory nature? Like you shot my guy on Wednesday and then shoot your guy on Thursday and Friday?
We've seen that in the past, and that definitely could be the case here. We're not far enough along in any of these over the last 3 days to be able to make that conclusion 100%. But what I can say in the past is generally when there's an attack on one group, if it is related to organized crime, there will be a retaliatory act. It might come in 24 hours and it might come in 2 years. So we're trying to connect those dots right now. But what I can tell you is that we have significant suppression efforts ongoing right now. Across the organization. And like I said, we manage a significant amount of offenders, over 350 organized crime offenders that we manage and that are known to us in the city. And so we work to identify if they're involved in any of these crimes, and if so, then we work to suppress any of the retaliatory violence.
When we see bail here, if you're on bail, with these guys on bail, do you know that increases the chance that if somebody's out, that somebody's going to retaliate against them compared to if they were in jail?
Oh, for sure. I think I wouldn't like to say that jail is safe and a comfortable place for people, but I think sometimes it is safer to them if they're responsible for an act and somebody knows that in one of these other groups. If they're out roaming the streets, we've seen what happens. So, the bail reforms would help us keep those in jail who are responsible for the crimes and probably keep them safer. What we do know is this life generally ends one way. And if you stay in it long enough, it results in significant harm to you, your family members, or even death.
Is there a concern we have an incident like today where you have multiple people shot in one go as opposed to an individual, just one at a time sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the messages we want to get out. Not being able to go all into the details because I honestly don't have them all today. This is obviously unfolding as we speak in today's incident. But what this does show you is those that are closest to those involved in a life of crime also become targets of violence. Whether it's a relation by blood, or it's a friend, or it's part of your organized crime group, you're at jeopardy, not just in your physical location, but obviously anywhere that you are and you're moving about with them. So what we want to say to those people that are closest to those involved in organized crime is some of the recent targeted attacks that we've seen, both here and in other jurisdictions, can result in serious injury or death to those who are innocent to this life.
Is there a message to those folks that probably will end up like that there is a way out and there is an opportunity for the Calgary Police Service to help them with that lifestyle?
Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking to help anybody who is involved in that life of crime. I know that there was broader messages to that in the years past about how to get out of the gang life, but there's always help. If they want to call the Calgary Police, whether that's 266-1234, Crime Stoppers themselves, and start to engage with us, we would definitely like to talk to anybody who's involved in that or has a family member that they're looking to get out or help to get out of this life. Anything that we can do to prevent, obviously, harm to them and get them out of the lifestyle, we would do.
It's been almost a year since the province created a task force on safer communities in the province. Is the province doing enough to support the police?
Yeah, I mean, I believe so. I mean, like what we always say at Calgary Police is we're always looking for ways to be innovative and do better. We have to be equal to, or hopefully better than, those who are out there committing this type of crime in the community and continue to innovate. I know the province supports us. The city supports the police in all jurisdictions and wants us to do as much as possible and tries to fund those resources. And we try and put the people out there on the streets to investigate and prevent this type of crime. So I'd say that everybody's trying to work the best that they can together with the resources that we have to interdict and prevent this type of violence.
Are you able to get any CCTV video of this at all?
Today or over the last few days? Yeah, so significant CCTV over the last number. Obviously, everybody knows there's significant video within communities, whether it's Ring doorbells or people driving around in their vehicles. We have taxi cabs, Ubers, any of those types of public transports, buses, etc. Convenience stores. We're looking for anybody who might see something. If they have video of one of these things that took place, or within the time frame might see a vehicle fleeing or a vehicle swap or somebody walking by in the area, that would be a help for police that we can track backwards from. We would like that. We do have officers out there actively collecting video from the last 4 days and the multiple different incidents. But this is a significant resource draw on the Calgary Police Service and many of the frontline services within Calgary, from EMS, fire, hospitals. Everybody that's got to deal with the aftermath of an incident like this is significant. So we want to prevent it from happening, and we need the community to help us do that. So again, an appeal. If you've seen something, please say something. If you have video, please share it with us. There is Crime Stoppers if you want to remain anonymous to get that information to us, and we'll come out there and make sure that we get it.
A recent citizen satisfaction survey showed people felt less safe and don't think the police are effective. What do you say to that?
I mean, that's unfortunate. I get the sentiment. We all live in the same communities, whether you're in Calgary or one of the surrounding communities. We're all impacted. I think part of that is what we see, what we watch. It seems like there's an inundation. We're inundated by bad news and by violence in our communities, like I say, across the country, across North America and the world. So I'm not surprised to see that people might not feel as safe. What I can say is I know it's not something people necessarily want to hear, and statistics don't drive everything. It's on average for what we generally see in a city this size in what's going on within our community. And I hope that us coming out and speaking to people in these times will hopefully make them feel a little bit safer, that the Calgary Police has brought every resource to bear on every one of these that we have, and we just look for their help.
Sorry, you talked about seeing more guns.
Mhm.
Are we seeing any of these guns that are made by computers or whatever?
Yeah, we do see some. Ghost guns or personally manufactured firearms for sure. We actually have less personally manufactured firearms than we did last year at this time, but there is that capability out there and always a concern. Definitely we're seeing trafficked firearms coming up from the United States, whether it comes to the mail internationally as well. So the majority of the crime guns we're seizing, though, are trafficked firearms this year that are coming across the border.
How concerning is it to you that this could be retaliatory? Because I feel like once that cycle begins, how does it end, right? Like, how
Yeah.
concerning is it to police that this could be just a cycle of retaliation that we're seeing and might be in the middle of it?
Well, absolutely, and that's the worst case scenario, right? So that's where our interdiction and suppression efforts come in, and we bring our resources to bear. And as soon as we do identify suspects in these crimes, and that's our exact mission, is obviously to warn who we think might be their target of that retaliatory violence, and to suppress that violence through the multiple different things that we have to offer here, like the Violent Crime Suppression Team and our frontline members who are out there doing directed patrols for us on those known offenders. And then again, once we do determine who might be a target of retaliatory violence, they have a choice to make, and that's to remain in the lifestyle or to get out of the lifestyle, because the alternative of remaining in is not good. So.
I know that you wouldn't be able to go into specifics on individual cases, but are you
Mhm.
finding that suspects, the victims, are people all from Calgary? Are they from other cities in Canada? Are you finding people from other provinces or anything like that?
I can actually speak. I wouldn't have the exact answer. So obviously, the life of organized crime isn't jurisdictional to the boundaries of Calgary. They make their money by dealing with people from all over the world, whether that's Canada, North America, interprovincial or transnational. Organized crime makes their profits outside of the boundaries of the city of Calgary as well as within it. So it wouldn't be a surprise that we have people visit our city to both commit violence and or become victims of violence that are in this lifestyle.
Anything else?
Today's homicide, what number is that for this year?
I believe that's number 17, I believe.
I'll have to check.
Yeah.